Hey, Wes here. Let me show you something. Look what I have. And it's a propane torch. It's a weed burner. Let me show you what this thing does. It's pretty cool. There we go. Get a fire. You think, that's not much fire. Let's see what this thing can do. Something like 400,000 BTUs. And you think, this is blasphemy. Here is a traditional primitive potter type guy with a propane torch. Well, I don't plan to give up fire with wood or charcoal, but I do think this could be kind of handy for testing things out. Maybe you want to test out some new clay with a test tile, or what I want to see if I can burn off carbon on a firing that wasn't just to my liking. So there's a number of things we can do with this to play with it, and quite frankly, if the native people had one of these things 800 or 1,000 years ago, do you think they would have used it? Here is the setup, my propane tank, and then there is a long hose that attaches it to the burner. This is a weed burner. I was wrong, it's 800,000 BTUs. It's supposed to get over 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit, way more than I need. But I don't know how well it's really going to heat this up. This is a little temporary kiln that I made. It's setting on a piece of stainless steel up off the cement, and then I just build it up, and on the inside I have a pot that I want to it's been fired before. I want to just see if I can burn off that carbon and just see how it reacts to the fire. I'll cover up the top of this as well. And then here is the burner sitting on some bricks. It seems to be pretty solid. And over here. And these bricks are not fire bricks. These are just paver bricks. They're actually cement. Some of them are actually fired bricks, but most of them are cement bricks. That is not the ideal situation, I don't think. But we're still going to give it a go. So I am not an expert, I am not a professional, and this is not an instructional video. I am just a learner just like everybody else and just trying to figure things out. I've never used a weed burner before, but I have used propane torches a number of times. And be aware that, you know, we're dealing with pressurized flammable gas. It could be very dangerous. And so make sure you know what you are doing if you decide to jump into this kind of thing. So let's just be careful and have a good time. Hey, thanks everybody too for joining this little group on YouTube. I just surpassed 1,000 subscribers, and in the YouTube world, that is tiny. It's obviously not viral, but in my world, that's a pretty big deal. I really appreciate it, and I'm honored that you would take the time to sit and watch these videos and push that button to subscribe, like, and the comments. I love the comments. And in fact, if you have ideas of things you would be interested in, let me know. Maybe I can do some of that. I don't know. But thank you so much. It's a heartfelt gratitude that I have for you spending time with me. I really, really appreciate it. Well, I know this is not an ideal situation, and if you have suggestions and ideas of how I can improve this setup, I would love to hear about it. Obviously, I'm not using fire brick. And if you look on YouTube, there's a whole bunch of videos about creating kilns for raku pottery. Those are good things to look at. And also people who forge metal knives and swords, they have similar kinds of setups as well. So you might want to check that out. One of the things that I've done is set the burner so it's not pointing directly at the pot. I'm really concerned that the pot is going to be very uneven in the way it heats up. I'm also going to try and start it out kind of slow so there's reduced thermal shock. And it has a valve on this so that you can adjust the heat on it, or the size of the flame. So let's let's cover this up a little bit more. I think this has cleaned it up quite a bit. I'm going to try it from the top as well and measure just how hot this is. So I saw temperatures over 800 Celsius. I'm not sure that they were consistent around the whole pot, but I'm just going to shut this down and let the pot cool and take a look at it. By the way, when you shut off these torches, you should shut it off at the tank first, let it bleed out all of the gas, and then shut it off at the torch itself. Well, the preliminary test went fine. Here is the pot. I'm sorry I forgot to get a good picture of it before it was fired, but it was all dark with smoke and that sort of thing, and it really cleaned it up. So now the real test is going to be with this pot. I made this bowl not too long ago. I fired it. It fired fine, but I don't know if you can see, but there's quite a lot of gray, charcoal, smoky stuff going on. It really didn't oxidize the way it should have. It should be a much more clean firing than it was. This is where it was sitting on kiln furniture, and on the back side you can see this gray stuff here too. So I'm pretty sure this can be cleaned up, and that is going to be the next trial. I hope that it survives. Okay, here's the setup. I had to expand the kiln a little bit. I'm sure this could be better, but I think it will work. We'll give it a try, get everything started. So I'm seeing temperatures over 600 Celsius. I also see a crack developing in the corner or edge of the pot. It's interesting too to see how the colors change in the paint, and as they oxidize, cool off, they'll change color again. So I'm going to do this just a little bit more and then we'll quit. Unfortunately, I think the pot's probably shot. Well, here is the propane torch. It's a weed burner that I got on Amazon. It's made by Ausail, A-U-S-A-I-L, and I think it's doing what it's supposed to do. It kicks out a huge amount of heat. If I have problems with it, it has more to do with my application, not the torch, I think. And a couple things I like about it. One, it has a little button for starting it. So you turn the fuel on and pop the button, and it gives a spark and it lights it up. There is a little grip on it, a handle, and that adjusts the amount of flame, so you can have a lot or a little. And then this is the actual valve for turning it on and off, although you have a valve at the propane tank as well. So I think this is fine, and I'm looking forward to playing around with it. Well, let's talk a little bit about the weed burner experiment. And you know, in many ways it was a good thing, in other ways not so good. I had some success and some failure. I'll show you both. The success was this little pot here. You know, you didn't see it to begin with, but it was really pretty, almost black and dark gray. It cleaned up quite a bit, but it didn't clean up entirely. There's still some gray stuff over here, and it survived. I think it maybe even rings a little bit more than before. No question does this weed burner have enough heat in it to fire pottery. I saw temps over 800 Celsius without really even trying that much. But the big problem is the unevenness of heat. I haven't figured out how to control that yet. I saw some situations where people were making raku kilns in garbage cans, and they had two levels in it, and the fire went in on the bottom. There is a shelf to put your pottery on, so the pottery sat on top of the shelf, and so the heat circulated around more evenly. The pot that I really cared about was this one. I really liked the painting I did on this, but it had a bunch of gray smoke stuff on it, and on the back too. I didn't really get that taken care of, and the problem here is that I did not get it heated up enough, and it got really uneven heat. And in fact, you can see right here, there is a crack that it was not there before. And if you look on the other side, this is the bad news. Look at that spall. Totally ruined the pot. But I got some education out of it. So what this tells me is the unevenness of the firing is really an issue, and I need to kind of work out some things with that. If you have some suggestions, I would appreciate that. The thing is, I'm not always very patient, and I rushed this deal, and as a result, it heated up more on the inside than on the outside, and it just popped off that spall, ruining the pot. It also teaches this law of impermanence. Nothing is permanent in this world, and pottery certainly isn't. It just kind of died a death a little quicker than I hoped that it would. And so that also gives us a lesson in humility and one of just not being overly attached to these things, because they're not going to last forever. So I think definitely worth more exploration, and I'll do that into the future. And so thank you so much for joining me today. Thanks so much for all those subscribers. So I hit that 1,000 mark. Really appreciate that. Love the likes and really like the comments. So thanks again. And until next time, wishing you health, happiness, peace, and love. Take care. Bye-bye.